Hey, welcome to Happy Homelands, guys. I thought I heard a cat. Do you have a cat?
I do have a cat.
It was funny because Alicia and I were just talking before the show. Alicia gets on a little bit early, and we were talking about cats because Sasha and I went to a cat show up in I forget where it was, like Rogers or somewhere. There was a cat show. No, way up north. It was near Missouri. And I had never been to a cat show, and I was telling Alicia it's mostly like these middle-aged or older women and gay men. There's this one guy who's dressed up like a cowboy, but you could just tell that he was gay. I mean, he looked kind of all nice, but but it was a lot of fun. And as we were saying before the show, they take these cats and they just hold them out, and these cats are just so docile for the most part, and they look at him and they give him a judge, and it's crazy. It was a lot of fun. Session and I had a great time. And I don't know if you know, Alicia, they have a cat cafe in Fayetteville, and we're gonna check that out pretty soon too.
Oh my
So
God.
that's where the cats, wander around. How many cats do you have?
So we just have one. But no, cat cafes are like big in Japan. They're like cat cafes and owl cafes and hedgehog cafes. And like it's really cool. Except in Japan, it's weird because in order to get the cat to calm down or like make it do what they want to do, they pat
Hmm.
them really hard on their butts. And I was like, if you do that to an American cat, it's gonna attack you. But for whatever reason,
Yeah.
again, they've conditioned these cats so you just smack them on the butt, and they just
Yeah,
made it.
it's so amazing, these cats, and there were beautiful cats, different breeds. I didn't even know a lot of these breeds. Some of them look like little rats, and some were huge, puffy, and they were all gentle. And the judges just hold it up, and they look real serious,
Yeah.
which just looks ridiculous. But we did have this one incident. This poor lady, she brought her cat up and went "Meow," and then it bit the judge, and it ran. And then I heard someone said, cat out. And then someone else said, don't panic. And I'm like, why would you panic? It's a cat. It's not like a pit bull running around. So that was the excitement. There was one bad cat that bit the judge and ran around. And the whole place was really crowded. So it was, if you guys have never been to a cat show, check it out. It's some interesting characters there. And guys, thank you so much for being here. We're doing Happy Homelands again with Alicia. And we do this every Wednesday. We won't be doing this next week because it's Christmas, but we will be on after that. So thank you guys all. And we really do appreciate your support. If you have questions, please, or comments, their YouTube has super chats. Rumble has ranch. I appreciate that. Power chats. And then the stream element. So get your questions in and we'll be happy to ask it. And we already got a super chat, so this is great. I spoke to and it spun around in confusion at panic. I can't read the icons. Can you read
I
those
spoke to
icons?
a rat. I spoke rat to a cat, and it spun around in confusion. It panicked.
Oh yeah. So I like cats. Sasha always says I'm like a dog person, and I do always had dogs in my life, but cats are pretty nice. They're pretty low maintenance and they're pretty intelligent animals, and so I like animals in general. So um,
I think we have a rag doll. I think like I don't.
oh, those are those big ones. You have one of those big cats.
He's big, but he's not a fluffy rag doll. He's like he's short
Mhm.
hair, but he has like beautiful blue eyes. He was a stray, so like I really have no idea what he is. But like when I've seen other pictures, that's what he looks like. But we're probably gonna get like a bull mastiff this spring, so I'm super excited.
Oh yeah, they're good dogs. They're big dogs though,
Yes.
and you got to make sure you train them well. And I
Yeah.
got Sasha's dad passed away a couple years ago, so we inherited his dog he had. And you probably it's a little I don't know what it is. It's like a spaniel mix. It's a real sweet dog we call Button. But I've always had a little bit bigger dogs. This is just like like a grandma dog. It's kind of fun though. I really like her. So she likes to watch TV and bark at the dogs on the TV. It's really weird. Yeah, so thank you for that super chat. It's good to kick it off with a super chat. And guys, just keep them coming. We're having a lot of fun. And we share the super chats, so thank you for that. We're going to get into stuff, and we talked beforehand here. And I will bring up thing, and this is about fertility rates for women who obtained a high school diploma is about twice that of women who have a college degree. And let me blow it up here. And just as disclosure, I know, can we say how many children you have, Alicia? Do you mind?
Oh yeah, I have 4.
She has 4 children. So, and she has I believe you have a college degree, correct?
Yes, I have a college degree from an extremely liberal university, so like Rice University down in Houston, Texas, if anybody's ever heard of that. Got a scholarship there, could not afford that on my own. So
Yeah, it's a good school. And did you get a scholarship for your pole vaulting or
I
whatever?
did. Yep.
Yeah. Just kind of off track since this is an informal show. How did you get into pole vaulting? Did you just say, I want to do that? It's just like, I want to get a stick and I want to throw myself up in the air. I would be scared, like you go up and you fall the wrong way or something. Were you ever worried about that?
I was too young and dumb to really worry about that, honestly. So no, I was in like soccer my whole life, and then I was in track, and then I was super, like I was incredibly fast, and I was really good at jumping. I always medaled and all this other stuff, and so essentially, like the pole vault coach, I was on the same track team year after year. He saw me. The youngest that they let them do it at the time that like I was competing was 6th grade, and so come that year he recruited me and asked if I wanted to go and try it out, and I said yeah. And then after that I was hooked. I was like, this is what I'm doing. I'm gonna fling myself up in the air on a pole. It's a lot of fun. I had a lot of pent up aggression, and it was good.
Yeah, that is interesting. So, getting to the story here, you have an interesting perspective, and we could get to the theories here because this is something that's been in the news a lot with Elon Musk. The crisis of fertility, and I guess there's a couple of tacks we could really discuss here. Number one, is it really a crisis? I mean, do we need to perpetually grow forever? I know we brought up Japan. They're already a very crowded island. So is Korea. Would it really hurt if the population decreased a bit? And I know the argument because of, propping up the old people. But then you get into the question of robotics and AI. Maybe you need fewer people. But what does seem to correlate to women's fertility seems to be prosperity or a woman's education. Educated women really don't have as many children as people like just a high school degree. And did you ever see that movie Idiocracy, Alicia?
I don't think so.
Oh, you got to watch the opening of that sometime. It was. Let me just see if I can find that here. And hopefully YouTube won't get mad at me showing this clip, but it was, let me just see if I can bring this up here. So, all right, we're going to show this. Hang on here. I wasn't planning on this, but it's an early clip and it's kind of funny. And you guys, if you haven't checked out this movie, check it out. It's Mike Judge. And let me see if I can share it here. Wait a minute. That's not it. Where is it? Yeah, here it is. Let me close this here. You got to understand I'm old, so boomer. I keep making mistakes on getting these tabs open. All right, here we go. Can you see that, Alicia?
Yes.
The first century began. Human evolution was at a turning point. Natural selection, the process by which the strongest, the smartest, the fastest reproduced in greater numbers than the rest. A process which had once favored the noblest traits of man now began to favor different traits. Most science fiction of the day predicted a future that was more civilized and more intelligent. But as time went on, things seemed to be heading in the opposite direction, a dumbing down. How did this happen? Evolution does not necessarily reward intelligence. With no natural predators to thin the herd, it began to simply reward those who reproduced the most and left the intelligent to become an endangered species.
Having kids is such an important decision.
We're just waiting for the right time. It's not something you want to rush into, obviously.
No way.
Oh shit, I'm pregnant again!
got too many damn kids. Thought you was on the pill or some shit.
Hell no.
Must have been thinking of Brittany.
Brittany? No, you can't. There's no way we could have a child now. Not with the market the way it is, no.
No, that just wouldn't make any sense.
Come on over here, bitch! He don't care about you!
Yeah, well, there must be something he likes over here.
You mean nothing to me, baby? It wasn't me! It wasn't me!
Well, we finally decided to have children, and I'm not pointing fingers, but it's not going well.
And this is helping.
I'm just saying that before I have in vitro, maybe you should be willing to...
It's always me, right?
Well, it's not my sperm count.
Yeah! I'm gonna fuck all y'all! That's my boy!
Cleavon is lucky to be alive. He attempted to jump a jet ski from a lake into a swimming pool and impaled his crotch on an iron gate. But thanks to recent advances in stem cell research and the fine work of Doctors Krinsky and Altschuler, Cleavon should regain full reproductive function.
Get your hands off my junk!
Unfortunately, Trevor passed away from a heart attack while masturbating to produce sperm for artificial insemination. But I have some eggs frozen, so just as soon as the right guy comes along,
And so it went for generations.
So it's a great film, but it's funny, but it brings up a point. A lot of people, because I've known people are like, oh, we got to make sure the market's right. You know, that it's so expensive to raise a kid. But you get kind of dumber people. They're like, wow, they just get pregnant. So I think that is part of the issue. What's your take on all this?
So I want to see a racial breakdown of that, of that chart that you showed at the beginning, because I think that could give us a more clear picture of what's going on. But I think that it's accurate to say that intelligent. So I don't think that it's so here it is. Yes. The picture of next 5 years, we couldn't do it in this market. Next 5 years, we can do this, blah, blah, blah. So it's not that they're so intelligent that they're just overthinking it. It's that they just don't value the child. And so the poor people that it was showing don't value the children either. But that's not the battle or the dichotomy that we're talking about here. It's normal people and educated people, and yes, you do put off having children to get a college degree, but also, at least when I went to college, people met 70% of people meet their spouse in college. And so
yeah, years ago when I was young, it's a very sexist statement, but they used to call it the MRS degree. Have you ever heard that?
Oh, yes, I have heard of that.
Meaning the girls go to college to actually find a guy. It's kind of changed now, because now not many men go to college anymore. I think it's 60% women. So it's not so easy to find men in college anymore.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. But no, I think that it's just a difference in valuation, because if you want to have that child, then you will have that child. And that's the same thing that we found in the studies with countries that provide stimulus packages to parents, have this many number of children, or have it and we'll cut your taxes, or we'll cut you a check, or whatever. It only works temporarily, because people just hurry up and have the 2 children they were going to have, and then they just stop having children. And so you see this initial spike, and then it just goes right back down to what it was. And so it really just is a values issue. I think that people that go to women that pursue higher education, maybe they just don't value children as much as that's the thing. They just don't value having children that quickly. They're pursuing their career instead. And the fact of the matter is, we've been raised off of this thing of you can have it all. You can be a career woman and a mom. And the fact is they call it half-assing for a reason. You can't whole-ass both things. So we've been sold a lie, And it's time, like, I'm not saying that women shouldn't go to college. I support college. I went to college. I have 4 children. But I also chose to not pursue my career. I chose to stop pursuing that. And that is a decision that mothers will have to wrestle with.
Yeah. And is there, I detect sometimes in women, more middle class or upper class women, do you ever you think other women kind of judgy with you that you haven't pursued a career and they're somehow better than you? I've seen it both ways.
I personally haven't encountered that because those aren't the circles that I run in. So I don't know. I definitely have encountered that online. There's red pill men that'll get on there and say like, you're a leech, like, just a parasite or whatever.
Yeah. Well, online you get a lot of weirdos on all sides. So
I know that like opinion exists in the ether.
yeah.
It's not really one that I personally encounter or one that like I really care about because it's an extremely low IQ. By the way, my IQ was tested in college because of reasons, and it's really, really high. So I think it's down. I think it's just values.
Yeah. I think my IQ they tested at 68. I got a 68, I think. So
You had a 68?
yes, that's my IQ.
Oh, I wouldn't guess that. I would guess you're
No,
not.
I'm just joking. I'm joking. I hope I'm not a 68. So
I don't know. I was gonna say it's like I think average is higher than that, but okay.
no, if I'm 68, well, maybe I am now because I can hardly get on here. But I can read, so I'm probably not 68. So and I like to read geeky stuff. I'm in fact right now before we started the show, I'm reading about the Revolutionary War. So that's but I think part of the issue is, and I understand this, is a lot of women they kind of have a view of their life now. Whereas my mother, when she had me, was 20 years old when she had me, and that was considered normal. And now I think a lot of women think, well, if you're going to go to college, you need to get your degree. I mean, after you get your degree, you need to go in the workforce, and you don't want to get pregnant in college, obviously. Then you're like, oh, once I get let's say you're a lawyer at a firm, and like, well, I can't get pregnant right away. I got to establish myself. So it's kind of like in their minds, they're like, okay, when I'm like 30, I'll get married and then start to have children later on then. But one of the things that really astounds me, I had no idea that a lot of women, they don't understand, it seems like basic biology, that it's more difficult to get pregnant when you're older. And whenever I say that to a lot of women, they're like, oh, well, I have an aunt, she got pregnant at 41 or 42. I mean, it can happen, but it's a lot more difficult. So I think what's happening is women are deferring. They still mostly want to have children, but it's only like 1 or 2. And then many of them find when they get into their late 30s, especially, it becomes more difficult. Whereas like when a girl is 19 years old, you look at her, she could get pregnant. It's a different thing. So I think that's part of it too.
It definitely is. And the other thing that's like really unfortunate is that if you are a woman and you start having children like in your 20s, you can still easily have children like well into your 30s. Your body just picks up and it's like, this is what I'm supposed to do. Like, I got it taken care of. Like, it's all done and sorted. But if you wait to have your first child in your 30s, not only are you predisposing yourself to cancers and autoimmune disease, it's going to be a lot harder for your body to get pregnant that first time. And that's just how it works, is because of like, oh, like I haven't used this system. I clearly don't need it. So I'm going to stop putting so much effort and energy into it. It's the same thing with muscle, use it or lose it. That's just how it works. And it's really unfortunate because these women are comparing themselves to women who started having their children in their 20s. They're not comparing themselves to women who tried their first pregnancy, in their mid to late 30s.
Yeah. Oh, we got a rant. Thank you. This is Pam Hyde, and I'm going to copy and paste this in. So keep sending your questions in, guys. It helps the show, and I really do appreciate it. If you like this content, please show us some love and give us some questions. And Pam, thank you. I don't think it really matters. Education level doesn't have much to do with intelligence anymore. I would guess that the children of women without a degree have more normal upbringing in general. Um, I would agree. Education and intelligence aren't necessarily the same thing. There's some people that are very intelligent that don't have a degree, and there's a lot of worthless degrees out there. I agree with that. But I think I would say a lot of people, when they have prosperity and they're able to have a higher time preference, so they're able to think out in the future. And a lot of people, when they get pregnant, where they don't think much about it, I think that could be kind of correlation there. So if you don't really think much about getting pregnant, you're the type of person that's probably not going to think much about getting an education or something like that. So I think that could be part of it too.
That definitely makes sense to me. I know that when I chose to stop pursuing my career, I'd actually spent like a lot of. I got pregnant the first time when I was 26. My husband was actually the one that got baby fever. He was the one that was like, "I want to get you pregnant," and I was like, "I didn't think that was the plan." And so 24 hours later, though, I was fully on board. I was more on board than he was, so but then I got really, really sick, and we came to the conclusion that like I could kind of have one or the other. I could either have children or a job, because I got so sick that like I wasn't able to work, and that's just how pregnancy is for me. And so I would have had postpartum depression anyways, but that decision certainly added to my depression, because it's so sad, but women in our society are conditioned to believe that our worth is directly correlated to our monetary contribution to the family. And so I saw the fact that I wasn't able to contribute monetarily anymore. I took that really hard, and I was like, well, I'm worthless. Like I'm literally I'm not contributing monetarily. I'm worthless. And that's really hard to reframe in your brain when literally since kindergarten, you've been asked the question as a little girl, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you're expected to give a job title.
Right. And that's something that's changed from the generations, because it probably started in my generation, where they started to push women that they needed to get jobs, and you can do whatever a man does and you should do that. But the idea, they would think back in even the 70s or 80s, if you were a little girl and said, "Oh, I want to be a wife and a mother," that would be like, "What? Why are you holding yourself back? Oh, who's holding you down?" It was a real feminist thing that you're putting yourself like into slavery.
Yeah.
And I would ask you, do you think, I don't think necessarily everyone needs to have children. Would you agree with that? And some people maybe shouldn't.
So I think that if you are one of those people that that shouldn't have children, then you shouldn't really be getting married. And that's Catholic doctrine. So
Well, obviously, like there's nuns, and there's nothing wrong with being a nun, right?
exactly. So the belief is that like everybody actually is made for parenthood. You might not be made for biological parenthood, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be contributing at all to society in some sort of parental capacity. So that could look like serving your community. That could look like supporting other mothers or supporting children that are disadvantaged in some way. So, yeah, I agree. There are some people that should not have biological children.
Yeah, and we got a super chat. Thank you, Augusta Sunny 777. Lucky numbers there. We write our names in the sand, and then the waves roll in and wash them away. Augustus Caesar. Also, Merry Christmas. Ho ho ho. Yeah, there is some truth to that. The mark we leave on the world is really through others, and eventually I don't mean this because if you're a person of faith, you don't get black pilled about this, but eventually everyone's going to die. You will die, and everyone that knew you will die. So eventually you will be pretty well forgotten, but you live on through either your line or your accomplishments. So I do agree with that. I think that was a good point. And Alicia, do you see? So, what do you think is the solution then to the fertility issue? First of all, do you see this as an issue in all countries? And I think it depends what country. Obviously, Africa, ironically, they
Africa,
still have a high fertility, but they can't even feed their children.
yeah, they're the only country that does not have a fertility issue right now, actually. And the fertility issue in the rest of the world, I would say it is a problem. And the solution, as we have seen, is a cultural shift. So you have to make being a parent cool again, and it has to be seen. Children and a family has to be seen as a status symbol. And right now it's very much stigmatized. We hear the jokes about people that have tons and tons of children. And those are typically families that are ridiculed in the public eye. And that has to change if you want to raise the fertility rate. You have to see children as a status symbol.
What's your position? And I disagree with this. Do you agree with the some people, let's say like the Groypers, that women shouldn't be educated and they should be having married and having babies at 14? What's your opinion of that?
These are the same idiots that want their wife to homeschool their children. I'm sorry, you're not thinking, you're just a fetishist. And
It is, yeah. And a lot of them aren't even into women, but that's another issue. But
most of them aren't even white, and they're white nationalists. And so it's just like, what?
well, did you see that? And I don't mean to pick on him, but that body cam footage came out just recently of Nick Fuentes of the police at an incident. And they asked him, "What, are you the white supremacist?" He goes, "No, I'm not even white. I'm Mexican." It's like, he said that. So it's like, we can't get any more white people and white supremacists, right? They're all like Candace Owens. You remember they had that white nationalist hearing, and she represented the white nationalism. What the hell? So it is interesting. But yeah, there is this weird fetish about women shouldn't be educated. They have no purpose after the age of 25. There's really kind of almost a pedophiliac thing in there that they need to marry young and have sex young. I don't think that's wise. And so what's your opinion on that?
No, you don't want an uneducated bimbo raising your children. That's just idiotic. And these people, you're like, oh, we're going to outbreed the liberals. And it's just, no, you're not. And it's disgusting, quite frankly, and it lacks forethought.
Hey, we got a good donation, $20. Thank you, Real Truth. I think we live in a very effeminate society, and it makes everyone passive. We need marriage to be almost mandated. As today, those who are married is a minority, so there's no stability in our society. It's very chaotic. Well, years ago, it was just assumed you'd get married because I'm old enough to remember it kind of was starting to go away even when I was young, but they used to call it fornication, to have sex out of marriage, and living together was kind of called shacking up and looked down upon. Whereas now a lot of people just see that as the way to do it. And the risk that men have with, oh, you're going to get screwed in the divorce court, all that type of stuff. So I do think there needs to be a structural change to a lot of it to encourage marriage.
Yeah.
And marriage is a man and a woman, by the way. It's not some two dudes. I will never accept that.
Or two women. There's literally no such thing as gay marriage.
Right. Joe Sobran, who I used to love, he's passed away. And he, by the way, had your faith. And he said this is a ridiculous term, gay marriage. It's almost like a contradiction of terms, because that's what it is, a man and a woman.
My favorite quote from The Office is this Chinese lady. This Valentine's Day episode, and everybody's trying to get manicure discounts. And so what the gay guy goes with Daryl, and they walk in like, oh, we're a couple for the discount. And then the Chinese lady looks at her and is like, no, you two boy, it don't work.
Yeah, I know.
No.
Yeah, it's a I still, and I'll never get over it when someone like a guy would say, "Oh, this is my husband," or a woman says, "This is my wife." I'm like, "What are you talking about? That doesn't even make sense."
No.
It's pretty bad there. All right, we'll do. I stirred up a lot of people, and a lot of people got mad at me. That's Alicia, a talent I've had my whole life is get people pissed at me. That's my one talent in life, and
Entertainment, at least.
yeah, everyone has to have some talent. And I made this statement: almost half of young men have never approached a woman romantically. And I just said, well, if you never go fishing, you're never going to catch a fish.
Yep.
And this came out with a study that at least Gen Z men, they just don't approach women. And there's so many, somehow the whole sex relations have become so poor that, oh, well, if I ask a woman out for a date, she's going to like call the police on me and arrest me for sexual harassment. I'm like, what? You know, and I gave an example. I mean, I'm like, it's not creepy to ask a woman out. All you have to do is you're talking, you say, hey, had a good conversation. You want to continue it maybe next Saturday over dinner. And if they reject you, usually by saying, oh, I can't, I'm busy, then you just move on. But even if they do, I don't see anything creepy about that as long as you don't stalk them. But it seems like, and I don't know if it's because of porn or these imaginary relationships they have on OnlyFans or what it is, but there seems to be like, oh, how dare you suggest men go up and ask women out? And I don't know if it's any different. You can tell me this, but women almost never will ask a guy out. So what's your take on that?
So, I mean, I think you're right. I think it's not enough people touching grass, quite honestly. It just go out in the wild, really. And the reason why I think that it's just not, it is a lack of masculinity. It's effeminate, like the one commenter said just now. So since I've been married, one time I was standing in the line at Chipotle, and this guy started talking to me, and he was being very complimentary, and he was being very kind and not at all creepy. I knew that he was interested in me because random guys don't really talk to you unless, whatever. And so as a woman, this is how we see these interactions, or at least how I see them. If a young man is trying to be polite, if he's being kind, I entertain that every single time. I'm always kind and reciprocating back. And then when they, inevitably drop the question of like, oh, well, would you like to grab coffees? And I was like, well, actually, I'm married, or, whatever. It's not, I think you're exactly right. Not enough men are trying, and it's really sad. And I do think a porn has a lot to do with it. The majority of men watch porn in our country. That's a statistic.
Well, and another issue that I don't, and everyone said, oh, you don't know Ramsey Paul's all different now. But they said, unless you're like Tom Brady and worth hundreds of millions of dollars and 6'4", and women just don't want you, so it's hopeless. And I'm like, really? I see a lot of guys that don't really add up to that. And I think that's a little bit of an exaggeration. I always did okay, and I was I know this is going to be a shock, but I wasn't a real Chad in high school or anything. But, I wasn't like a Romeo, but I dated girlfriends and stuff. So I don't think and I think part of the problem is, like you said, touching grass. People see stuff on the internet and they assume that's real life. So they see these crazy women, they're, talking about all this stuff. And most women are not like that. Now, of course, you don't want to come across creepy. And creepy means you don't, accept no for an answer. You keep pestering someone, or you just start, and you shouldn't just start telling how beautiful they are and all that. That just comes across creepy. So a lot of guys just don't know how to traverse that. And, the more you're experienced with it, it's no big deal if you really get rejected. You just kind of move on and forget about it, really. But a lot of people, they just have, they put so much into it. But we're seeing it's an issue now, at least with a lot of Gen Z guys. What would you say specifically? I don't understand this because when I was in high school, yeah, women are strange and mysterious, kind of scary, but at the same time, we start to get hormones, so we want to be with them, and we have to try to navigate that. And one of the reasons we wanted to get a driver's license, so you don't want to have your dad take you on a date. Uh, why do you think this generation is having so much problems with that?
I honestly think that it could be a lack of parenting. I
Yeah.
remember my parents actually, they took all of us on like dates, as weird as that
Hmm.
sounds. My dad took me on a date, and he took my younger sister on a date, and my mom took my brother on a date. And this was to teach us, for us girls, it was to teach us this is how you need to expect to be treated by a man who's pursuing you. And for my mom, it was teaching my brother, this is how you need to treat a woman that you are pursuing. And they taught us to, accept a door being open for us, or to open a door, to like pull out the chair and push in the chair. And we actually even practiced that at home. We practiced proper dining etiquette. We practiced uh prop we just practiced being in polite society and the rules that are there, because like, yes, there are rules, and Gen Z is fine and I really do like them, but it drives me nuts that we've done away with polite society rules. I'm very aristocratic in that sense. You need to know what silverware to use. You need to know how to hold your silverware. I see too many people fat fisting cutlery these days, and I can't stand it. And it's just, that's why they're not confident. It does have to do with porn, but now that I'm thinking about it, I think that their parents just didn't teach them how to do things like that.
Yeah, I think that could there's a lot of people with broken families, so they don't understand that. And I think the risk is exaggerated a lot, but I was talking to Sasha, and there's a lot of young women that are, it's just not young men. So I'm just not picking on young men. A lot of young women are screwed up in Gen Z too. And a lot of them, they have this attitude. They've been really frightened, and we've known some that they think every man is probably a potential rapist. And so they have this whole, which is just not healthy
Yeah.
to look that way. And so I think that needs to help a lot. Hey, we got one from Tony. How many women make the rom-com mistake? They see John Cusack and say anything and think that's what works in real life. No guy has ever tried that in real life and succeeded. Did you ever see that movie, Say Anything?
No.
That was a movie I saw with Sasha. And this guy, he got rejected by the girl, but he kept going after her, and he stood outside her house and played the song, romantic song, and they ended up falling in love. And I joke with Sasha, like, well, in real life, the police would be called on you for doing that. And so there is a little bit of that. I think a lot of guys, they get way too ahead of their skis when it comes to relationships. And one of the things I've learned is women are just, this will sound kind of controversial, Alicia, but women are just people too, really. And you don't have to take everything so serious and worry about it and get all upset about it. I mean, go out with a girl, and if it doesn't work out, it's no big deal. You don't have to, it's not a life or death situation.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, I think they get too worked up about that. So thank you, Tony, on that. I appreciate your support.
Or they just take things too personally these days.
Yeah, I guess. Someone replied, well, now what happens if you ask your girl in high school and they reject you? They'll tweet about it or something, and that you'll be mocked in your class, where that used to not be the case. But does that really happen? I mean, if you just, I don't know.
I haven't heard of that, but like, I'm sure that has happened. I'm not saying that it doesn't, because I can see a mean little girl doing that. But that still shouldn't stop you from swinging, like
Yeah, and if you don't do anything really wrong or creepy, I would say, like, if you're a girl and you say, "Oh, this guy asked me out to dinner," oh, and you're just trying to act like the victim, it kind of would make you look really bad, in my opinion.
exactly. And like the thing is like people are a lot cooler these days about that. There's a lot more social awareness. I feel like when I was growing up, maybe I'm wrong about that, but it seems like there is. And so I think these days I just feel like that's less common and people would kind of end up turning on the mean girl.
Is part of the issue and what's the issue with like now we'll talk about the girls. Is there a worry that the guys are all predators, and is there an expectation with the younger generation? I don't know. You saw even in my time, it became more if you go on a date, after like the third date, you're supposed to have sex or something's wrong. So everything's been so hyper sexualized, or it used to be. Now they're just not even dating. Do you think that caused some of the issues too?
Like the sexualization.
That if you're a girl and you go out with a guy a few times, you're expected to put out.
Yeah, like I'm sure that has contributed to the promiscuity issue in our culture because I remember the first time I was exposed to that idea was shows and movies. That was like nothing that I'd ever heard about before then. So, I don't know. I really don't know. I can't speak too much about dating culture because I only dated one guy ever and then I married him. So
Yeah, I guess that was interesting. So when did you start to date him? How old were you?
So my parents didn't let me date until I was 16. But somebody had asked me to prom before then. So I went to prom with him and then a few months later started dating my husband, and the rest is we got married at 22, and he went to the Naval Academy. I went to Rice, got married at 22, and then shipped off to Japan. So.
Yeah, I think that's probably an unusual experience, wouldn't you say, from what most people have?
Yeah,
And
it's very unusual.
what would you say to the argument? Because some people would say, well, how do you know you got how would it, not you personally, but how would a girl know it's the right person? Because don't you have to date around to make sure, what's out there?
Nope. Because if you love them, then you love them. You're not gonna if you're thinking and I understand, like I thought like, oh well maybe I do need to break up with him to experience the rest of whatever. But then I was thinking about it and I was like, I like what I have. I don't want to experience the rest of whatever because
Right.
first of all, like that'd be starting over from scratch. I have no desire to do that because I love this person that I'm with. And I mean, honestly, that's what it came down to. If you love the guy that you're with, anybody else that's out there isn't going to matter because you like the one you're with.
And what would you say to these in the red pill manosphere guys that women are all hypergamous, and if they should find a guy that's a little bit richer or a little bit more handsome, they will dump their guy immediately to move up?
Yeah, I mean, as they say, as they like to tell other people, it's cope. You have a bad personality and you are blaming it on women. Again, I went to Rice University. Lots of rich kids there, lots of trust funds. I knew who they were. It's pretty obvious. I stayed with my long distance boyfriend because that's who I loved. Oh, and he's shorter than I am. So, like let's tally up the little things that should have made me break up with him, according to Red Pill. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. I think a lot of things, there's sometimes a kernel of truth in these ideas. Obviously, women want to try to get the best match that they can. And men, the same argument can be for men. They just always want younger, prettier.
Mm-hmm.
But there's more to it. That's called reductionism. You're trying to push everything on the pure physical aspect or animal. I think there is the concept of love and companionship with someone. And there's too much emphasis, I think, on these other factors. And that while there's an element of truth to it, I think it's exaggerated a little bit. Hey, we got another power chat. Does Rams think that the fat is beautiful movement harms male and female relations? I don't know if you saw this, Alicia, but San Francisco, they actually hired a person. I didn't do it for the show prep, to be in San Francisco, and it's a good paying job to help with fat acceptance. It's bizarre. Men are and the woman that runs it, assuming she is a real woman, is just hideous looking, as you can imagine. Men are biologically conditioned to like a woman smaller than he is. Fat is beautiful movement underestimates what issue this is to male-female attraction. Yeah, I agree with that to a degree. Now, at the same time, I'm not one of those people that, because then I'm kind of reinforcing just this, like, oh, well, you're always just going to get someone that's thinner and prettier. And I don't think that's the case. I think men look for other qualities too. And there could be bigger women that are loving wives. And so I want to be careful what I say there. But yeah, in general, men like women that aren't obese. I've often said that actually women are a lot more critical of other women and their looks than men are of their looks. I don't know if you've ever noticed that, Alicia.
Oh, I think so. Like, there's a such thing as dressing for the male gaze and dressing for the female gaze. In order to dress for the male gaze, it's very obvious. You just dress, on a scale from, whatever to hooker, and you're dressing for the male gaze. Dressing for the female gaze is much more complex.
It is. And it's real because they get real catty and everything, how you dress and everything.
Yep. But to that person's question, so in my opinion, it doesn't really matter like what agenda in terms of like fat acceptance, trans acceptance, whatever is being pushed, because like nobody's holding a gun to your head and making you date a fat person. So like, I don't know, am I missing something there? Like nobody's like, they're saying like, oh yeah, you should do fat acceptance, but like nobody can make you do that. So why do we care? Like I know it's like we care because it's like annoying and like dumb and weird and like we shouldn't even be here as a society. But just mind your own business. Like date a skinny chick. Like,
well, I think and I don't know this situation, but in general, they would say, well, the problem is if we accept fatness, then all the successful guys are going to get all the skinny girls, and it's not that many. Then I'm left with a fat chick.
I mean, I guess, but you're not really left with anybody if you don't like fat chicks, because you're not going to date a fat chick. And also, women aren't just going to let themselves go because somebody tells them fat is beautiful. I don't know.
Yeah, I actually found this on Twitter. Let me just show you real quick. This is here she is.
Hi, my name is Virgie Tovar, and I'm the author of You Have the Right to Remain Fat, as well as a few other books on...
You have the right to remain fat. Well, no one's saying you don't. I don't think anyone's going to arrest you if you're fat. But that doesn't mean there's consequences to it.
And body acceptance. When I think about what people might be surprised by or what you wouldn't think of when you think of eating disorders, I immediately think of being a kid. I was a kid in a larger body, a teen in a larger body, and also I'm an adult in a larger body.
I love how she phrases it, like she had no control over it. She was put into a larger body. Yeah. I have no control. I was just put into it. It's kind of like the trans thing. I was born in the wrong body.
And the message I always got from my doctor was, shrink your body by any means necessary.
Yeah, because it could be dangerous. I have a good friend. She's a doctor, medical doctor in Canada, and they're not allowed. I don't know if you heard this, Alicia. She's not allowed to tell her patients that they need to lose weight because of health.
Yeah,
and it's ridiculous. So.
And it really felt like there was a sense of a don't ask, don't tell. So because I truly, truly, truly believed, right, and this is where I think the surprise comes in. I really believed that this was about my health. I really believed that my doctor was right, because why would I believe anything?
Well, it is, though, and they're not lying to you. And so, anyway, San Francisco, they just appointed, so they gave her a high paying job to be the weight stigma czar. And by the way, San Francisco, she's working with a team at the San Francisco Department of Public Health as a consultant on weight. And San Francisco's broke, so they don't have the money for this nonsense, but it's just crazy.
That's insane.
And again, I'm really, I'm not like a big elitist, and I don't, some people are fat, they could be great people. I have no problems with that, and I'm not one of those people, and that's going to, and some people are short or tall or whatever, and everyone gets old. So even if you're beautiful, eventually one day, if you live long enough, you will no longer be pretty. But that's not really the issue. The idea is to try to make everyone else change their point of view, which isn't going to happen anyway, even if you can force them to say that. They may say that just to, like Leonardo DiCaprio. I could see him saying, oh, yeah, I love women of all sizes. But then he just dates like 20-year-old model-looking women. So you're not going to change what people think because you're fighting against biology.
We know you're afraid of 26-year-olds.
Yeah, he doesn't do that. So I think... obviously, my wife, Sasha, I think she's very beautiful. She's thin, and so I appreciate that. But it's not like, that's not the reason I love her. And I think that's, so we got to be careful here. But at the same time, to have a fat czar is just ridiculous.
Yeah, that's gross. That's icky.
Yeah. All right. And now we're going to do a what used to be called a tweet. I guess it's a post now. And this was from Alicia. And so I want her to talk a little bit more about this because I thought it was pretty insightful. The hilarious thing about the red pill movement is that their solution to whole inflation, not a real thing, is a suppression of female sexuality. In the same breath, they also state that if their woman isn't a freak in the sheets, they'll leave her. What these little dorks don't realize is that by destroying female sexuality, they destroy female sexuality. The women who feel guilty about enjoying sex are worse, women who are incapable of enjoying it at all. Women who hate their bodies and see them as bad. And women who are terrified of and have no idea to handle male sexuality. These are not serious people. And I think this was an insightful comment. Have you ever heard of the Madonna whore syndrome?
Yes.
Yeah, and if you guys don't know what that is, it's a common thing. I think it's a psychological term, and most psychology I don't really agree with, but a lot of guys do buy into this. They see people like their mothers and other people. There's good girls that don't like sex and they're very pure, virginal, and then women that like sex, they're nasty whores, and there's a big division between the two. And I think as what you're saying, there's this strange thing is, especially in a lot of the red pill movement, they want beautiful women that are sexy and dress up like anime characters or something. But at the same time, if you do that, then you're a whore that they have no use for. Is that where you're trying to get there?
Yeah, and there's also like this whole thing of like, oh, she wasn't your girl, it was just your turn.
Yes.
You have to realize that. And it's just like, it's so weird. Then they also joke about how men are the logical ones and women are purely emotional. And it's like, okay, you're constantly contradicting yourself and I'm illogical. Like, let's be real here. So, no, they don't. The bottom line is like, a lot of them don't know what they're talking about. There are obviously some kernels of truth in everything, but the majority of it is so pornified that it's just nonsense.
Yeah, and I think part of that is I don't know, because as I joked, when I was a kid, my porn was the Sears catalog, the underwear section. Whereas now people, even when they're young, can get all the super hardcore stuff. And if that's what you see and you think that's how a relationship should be, I think it's going to cause issues.
Yeah.
All right. Rowhouse, thank you. For fun, check out this conference. And I had no idea. And Rowhouse, thank you for supporting us. We appreciate that. and this is FatCon. They actually have a fat conference in Seattle.
Of course. Why?
Biggest fat convention on the West Coast. I wonder if they have a you have to weigh in and you have to be so fat, and like if you're skinny, would they like shame you? Like, what's the skinny person doing here? I don't know. This is
I see Matt Walsh now, and I want to identify as fat and show up at one of those.
you say I am fat. I am obese.
I am fat. My heart is fat. Like, I'm one of you.
You know the vendor, if they have like an all-you-can-eat buffet at that event, it's like, no, we're gonna go bankrupt.
I could like put away more food than some of those chicks.
Yeah, so yeah, a fat conference. I mean, that would be. I know there'd be a lot of backstabbing there too. So thank you, Rowhouse. I appreciate that, and thank you there. So let me just see if I got everything here. It's all cut up. Yeah, right. And let's see here. So thank you on that. I wanted to talk a little bit about, and you sent out a lot of stuff afterwards on this, and let's just take this here. This is, we're gonna, if you guys are wondering, we're segueing into this topic, and let's bring up a quick video to show this, and then I'll get Alicia's opinion, and then I'll give you my opinion.
The very first question was about this drone activity. Let's listen here.
What about ones that are flying over military bases at this point? Have there been any possibilities of collecting what sort of information these drones are doing or anything like that?
Yeah, again, just to kind of put this into context, and I know that our colleagues at the White House, FAA, DHS, FBI have all made this point. So over 1 million drones registered in the United States, and on any given day, approximately 8,500 drones are, in flight. And so the vast majority of these drones are going to probably be recreational or hobbyist. They're going to be commercial drones, used in things like architecture, engineering, farming, or they could be used for law enforcement. Is it possible that some of those drones could be up to malign activity? It's entirely possible, but the vast majority, that is not, the case. And in the case of drones flying near or over U.S. military installations, that in and of itself, just given the volume of drone flights we see on a given day, is not something that's new. We take all of those seriously. We will typically, when we detect them, attempt to classify them and take appropriate measures. Is it possible that some of those are surveilling? Absolutely. But can you make that assumption in every case? Not necessarily. So in each case, commanders have the authority, installation commanders and authorities have the authority to respond appropriately, and will continue to do that.
Click here.
All right. So what do you think about these drones, Alicia?
Okay. So last week, I watched the video, and it was this like governor of some, I think it was like the governor of New Jersey, and it was like, I have it on good authority from like this guy that I really trust that the Iraqis have a mothership in the ocean and they're flying drones off of it.
I remember that, the mothership. It sounds like a UFO thing. Yeah.
Never mind.
I just picture it rising out of the ocean and the drones coming out. Yes, science fiction.
The people living in caves have a mothership. And it's in the ocean off the coast of New Jersey. They're as big as SUVs. So that was the story last week, right? Now the story is this guy saying, like, there have always been drones. There's so many drones. There's nothing to be concerned about. They are benign, most likely. And so, okay, this is what we know, though. We know that since its inception, the government has been, well, not since its inception. Anyway, Operation Sea Spray. Let's start there. San Francisco, California, they spray out in the ocean bacteria, and they spray so much of it that the population of San Francisco is like, it stinks. People literally thought people like just all of a sudden one day just like everyone decided to boil Brussels sprouts or cabbage. That's how bad the smell was. And they're like, what's going on? Why is everybody what is this stinky smell? It was this bacteria because they were testing biological warfare. They wanted to see, how if somebody else came and did this, what would happen? It was like, so we're going to do it to our own population and see what would happen. One person ended up dying. And this happened back in the 1950s. And these people didn't get to sue the government until the 1980s because it was kept, confidential. So then we have rain goo in Washington that happened in, about a decade later, I think, in the 1960s. And everybody that touched it, it made them really sick. It gave them flu symptoms, hacking up lungs. This is the same symptoms that they got in San Francisco. They also sprayed it they also did spray operations in Minneapolis and St. Louis. And then in New York, around the same decades, they did this light bulb experiment where they get on the subways with light bulbs full of bacteria and they break them, and then they exposed all of these New Yorkers on the subway to this harmless bacteria. And the people on the subways, again, they came down with these cold and flu symptoms. So what are we seeing now? We have all of these people saying, I saw a drone and now I'm sick. I have these puffy eyes. I have a cough. It's really bad. And it only happened after I saw the drone. Well, doctors, so you saw the army guy gaslighting us. We've always had drones. There were so many drones, guys. Like, why are you freaking out about drones right now? Well, because these are different. Like if we have 85,000 drones and we're all of a sudden freaking out, there's a reason for that. So stop gaslighting. So they're doing the same thing though. They're gaslighting these sick people with like, oh, you weren't sick after you saw the drone. You were always sick. You just saw the drone, freaked out, and then associated your sickness that you already had with it. It's not, and I kid you not, this doctor said this, it's not too late to get your vaccine. And so it's just like, it's a psyop. I guarantee you, the history of our nation points to this as being what it is. They are testing biological warfare. They did it on the West Coast. I guess now they're doing it on the East Coast. And they're testing biological warfare with drones because we have drones now. We don't have to use the crop dusters that we used in the 1950s. I guarantee you that's what's happening.
Part of the issue is a lot of these things that you would think are wild conspiracy theories, but a lot of this actually happened with our government when it was declassified. Our government has done a lot of horrible things on people. They did psychological experiments, put people on LSD, see how that would, they would react to do this. So a lot of this stuff, these are dark projects, meaning even the military doesn't know about them. They're off budget. And so that leads credence. It could be something like that. I don't know. The part of it is because drones are more popular than ever. I know we've had them for a while, but it's sort of like the UFO phenomenon really didn't start until the space age. Do you think these are then like a military thing, or do you think it could be aliens from outer space?
No. First of all, aliens are demons, but no. So
yeah, I don't believe in aliens from outer space either. To be honest.
I 100% believe this is our government doing what our government does. They're gaslighting the people. They're saying like, oh no, guys, drones have always been here. Like, why are you freaking out now? And it's like, well, because this is different. This is the thing. Never doubt yourself, because our brains, human brains, are specifically designed to recognize patterns. Patterns keep you safe. And that's why all these people are freaking out about the drones.
Yeah, but patterns are also racist at times. So. And, that is true. I always I said a joke. Like if you see like a a couple of like young black guys on the street corner versus a couple old Jewish women. You know, stereotypes, you know, patterns sometimes hold true.
Yeah, they keep you safe.
Hey, we got Augustus Sunny. Thank you. I think the Chinese cursed me for eating too much of the supposed all-you-can-eat buffet. They were pissed, luckily. I have stronger European magic. Try me, Wang Di, Ching Chong, can't hocus pocus. I'm sorry about your Chinese buffet. I like Chinese food, but this is generous, $21. Thank you. Thank you, Augustus. Do you like Chinese food, Alicia?
Oh, yeah.
Alicia?
Chinese food. I'm actually like learning how to cook it. And I love Japanese food too.
Yeah, I do too. That's I love sushi, and yeah, that's Stash and I have a good friend that he's in Japan right now. First time he ever went.
Cool.
He's probably going to get a lot of attention because he's 6'8".
I remember you telling me about that. Yes.
Yeah, he's there now, so I'm sure they'll be just like, wow.
Yeah, everybody's gonna want to take pictures with him.
Yeah, I know. So, we got another from Pam Hyde. I've been considering flying one of my drones around town to cause a panic. Yeah, you should. It's fun. Yeah, it'd be kind of fun to have a little drone to fly around. But some of these are really big. They're not like little.
Yeah, according to that one governor last week, he's like, they're the size of SUVs. So
Yeah, because usually drones, I think that you would buy at the store, they're just kind of like.
yeah.
Remember, you used to have remote controlled like planes and stuff. It's kind of like that. So yeah, that's the case. And thank you for those discussion. A lot of interesting stuff. I brought up that story, so you guys can bring that up. And let's see here. We'll go on to our next topic that we were going to discuss about, and it is. This was funny. Trump is he's such a good troll. You see how he's just bullying Justin Trudeau. That's hilarious. And now he's the Washington Post is more offended that Trump hilariously calls Elizabeth Warren Pocahontas than they are that she used her fake heritage to get ahead in life. This is a thing that's really weird. I don't know if we talked about it, but she thought she was a Cherokee Indian. That's how she got into Harvard, even though she's blonde, blue eyes. This is very common in the United States. People think they're part Indian, but they're really not. It's just sort of an urban myth. Were you ever told that you were part Indian? It seems like every white family was told that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember being under that illusion at one point, and then I was a dumb young person and did my DNA, and I am not. I am completely white. So
Yeah, I did my DNA. I'm like with Sasha. We're both mostly British Isles. My Ramsey's a Scottish name,
yeah.
and her last name is Scottish too. So you have a lot of British Isles, I assume, in you, right?
Yeah. So okay. Segue real quick though. Apparently DNA, actually I just remembered this, if you are Indian, most of the Indian genes are actually recessive. So that's why states like Oklahoma, you have to trace your DNA through lineage rather than DNA because it's recessive. So by 2 or 3 generations, you actually won't have any Indian DNA in your blood anymore. But anyway, my results say 51% British, and then there's Wales and Scotland and Ireland and Norway and German. So I'm literally related to all the island people and then Germany, which is funny because I was only a very small amount German, but my great-great-grandfather literally came over here on a boat from Germany. So again, that's how genes work. It's really weird.
We're almost the same. I'm a very similar genetic makeup on my mother's side. I was part German. The rest on my dad's side was British Isles. My grandmother's last name was Jones. That's Welsh. So I am that. And when I took the DNA test years ago, it's funny because it showed I was 0.1%, 0.1% Ashkenazi. And people on the internet I always knew he was a Jew. I'm like, what? 0.1%. So, but then I had it tested later, and I through fasting and prayer, I got rid of that. So that is no longer in there. So yeah.
I feel like that's just kind of what they did to everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember a lot of people coming back with that, and I was just like, like, okay.
All right. And the last topic we said we're going to discuss. So thank you guys. If you have questions, get them in. We appreciate it's been pretty active tonight. And thank you all for watching. We have 1,027 watching. So say hi to everyone, Alicia.
Hi.
So here we go. Let's see here. This is a woke stuff. Pixar has removed a transgender character storyline from their series Win or Lose. When it comes to animated content for a younger audience, we can recognize many parents would prefer to discuss on their own terms and timelines. So I think this is a good sign. I've noticed, I think there's been a pushback from the wokeness. And what have you observed from that too?
Yeah, I've noticed that too, thankfully. A little bit. This is a good sign. Although, like, I was listening to my podcast today, and there's this commercial talking about this like digital picture frame, and she's talking. He's like, I love my digital picture frame, and I preloaded all these pictures of me and my dog and my wife. So it's still there. I hope to see more of this. I hope that like eventually we reach the place where we're not even like hearing about it anymore, where it's not like, oh, we removed it because we know that you're going to throw a hissy fit. I just don't even want it to be on the radar anymore. Like, don't even try. Don't even try. That's all I want.
Well, I was shocked a few months ago. I saw an ad. You probably will say I'm lying, Alicia, but it's true. I saw an ad with a white man and a white woman in it. Can you believe that?
You're lying. Nope, I don't believe that.
I know that's just too extreme because it's always a blonde woman with a black eye. But yeah. The only time you see a white couple together if they're like two homosexuals, then you will, but otherwise you don't. But it's actually changing a little bit, I think. So I think that's the good news.
Yeah, I'm hoping we're gonna see. Well, I don't know. It's weird. I remember. So I don't have a TV, and I haven't had a TV for years. The first time I came back to the States, I was watching TV, and I was blown away because so before I left Japan, the majority of the people in commercials were white, as is our American demographics. It was reflective of our demographics in the US, the percentages. And then when I came back from Japan, I was watching TV, and like 80% were people of color, and like there was like 2 white people, and it was just like I was astounded. And then there was a commercial in Spanish, and it was like,
yeah,
it was like, what happened? Like, I was only gone for this long, like only a few years. Like, how? It was nuts.
Yeah, I lived briefly in Hungary, in Budapest. And I was shocked because I saw this big ad billboard. They had a white father, white mother, and 2 white kids. I'm like, you never see that in the United States. And I'm like, this is weird, but it's really nice. So it is, and I hope there's a little bit of pushback on that. I think we are. And finally, I would just want to show one of the tweets or posts you made. And I think this is an important point. The more insidious side of DEI is when that a POC actually wins fair and square. Their efforts and deservedness are discounted. It's a real tragedy. Miss France is a stunner, and she should be able to celebrate her win without the detractors. And, I'm not partial to black women, but for black women, she's not like the typical black woman you would see around here in Walmart, that's for sure. So what are your thoughts on that? Because I think there is we got to be careful. It's just not every other race is ugly and everything, or everyone of any other race that gets a position is because it's just DEI.
Yeah, and I think certainly, like, I hate DEI. It's not racist to prefer your own race. It's not racist to want white babies. It's not racist to think that if you are white, that other white people are more attractive. Like, that's very normal. That's literally how psychology and biology works. That's okay. What we need to realize, though, about the Miss Universe competition is that it is a nationality competition. Nowhere in the rules does it state that your ethnicity has to match what everybody thinks that it does. And that's what everybody is up in arms again about. And I think it's just really silly. Whether or not you think that this is a beautiful Black woman is beside the point. I'm partial, you're partial, and that's why that these contests are judged by mathematical rubrics. Apparently, they literally have accountants that go and tally up like mathematical scores on sheets. I don't know. And that's how they judge it, because people are not able to be objective. And that's okay. You know, it's okay to have preferences. And again, it's not an ethnicity contest. I think that'd be really cool. Honestly, like, I think it'd be cool if you went back and like, yeah, let's pit all the ethnicities against each other. But honestly, with what we were talking about genetics earlier, it'd actually be pretty impossible because of how genes are inherited. You know, if you have, you know, okay, well, France needs to be, you know, she at least needs to be 60% Gaul genetics. Okay, well, what happens if she has a little bit of POC DNA there, and she's presenting, you know, more POC than white, even though her majority of her genetics is white. Well, then she'd be disqualified because her phenotype isn't white, and it's like the standards are completely arbitrary when you actually talk to some of these people. And I sympathize, I understand. I'm right there with you about DEI being a horrible, evil scourge that needs to be eliminated. But to sit here and pretend that it's not an issue for everyone isn't a very educated position to come from.
Yeah, I think that's a very reasonable position. And I do appreciate that. Let's see here. I think we got everything. I just want to make sure I got all of the chats and everything, and everyone's been real generous tonight. And Alicia, it's been so much fun with you tonight. And I just want to give a programming note, guys. Next week, Wednesday, is Christmas, so we're not going to have a show Christmas, but we will follow up in the future. We will get back at it, but we're going to take off Christmas. So Alicia, any final comments? I know you write for EV Magazine. I saw that you had something. I'm sorry, I didn't read it. Something about like dresses, pink or yellow, or what looks best or something. I didn't, you know, I'm a guy, so I just kind of skip over it.
So Milkmaid dresses. Evie has made our own Milkmaid dress, and it's the raw Milkmaid dress because if you're drinking milk, it should be raw. And these dresses, they've been around since the 17th century France. They caused a lot of controversy back then. They're causing a lot of controversy now. A lot of people hate it. A lot of people love it. I love it. I'm buying one. I'm going to buy a white one and put like a little leather corset or a leather belt on. It's going to be so cute. I'm getting cows soon. I'm going to go milk them in my Milkmaid dress. So if you always, you know, if you see peasant women in the movies and you're like, hey, I kind of like that look, and you have a wife, maybe buy her one of those dresses. I don't know.
Get the wife out to milk the cow, huh?
So,
yeah, that would be good. More Milkmaid dresses, I agree. So check out Alicia at EV Magazine. And guys, thank you. Oh, we got a super chat from Real Truth. Merry Christmas. I think Row House has a Rumble rant. Oh yeah, we got one here. Let me see. Did I miss one from Row House? The lie in this clip about someone you know, Ramsey, comes natural to some. Let me just see here. Yeah, this is Eric Weinstein says Pierce Morgan's The Voices of White Nationalism and Christian Identitarianism needs to be out of the MAGA movement. And yeah, thanks for that. That is a definitely controversial position. And Kate and Row House, I'll get more to that next time here. I will save that up. I got to take a quick break here pretty soon anyway. So, but thank you for that. And Alicia, oh, we got one more from Milk That Udder. Yeah, okay. So, it's been so much fun, and thank you, Alicia. Any final words you want to say? We got 1,075 watching, so whatever you want to say.
I'd like to say thank you so much. Y'all have been so generous tonight, and I hope that y'all have a very Merry Christmas.
That's right. On the Ramsey Paul Show, we don't say Happy Holidays, Merry Christmas. So thank you all. God bless you, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Next week we won't have it. Talk to you guys later. Bye bye.